Good morning and welcome to the BizNews Daybreak. Today is Tuesday, the 21st of April. I'm Kerry Lanigan. First up, our partners at Bloomberg give us the latest overnight world news.
Apple has named John Ternus as its next CEO effective September 1st. Now, the current CEO, Tim Cook, will be shifting to the role of executive chairman. Ternus has been the head of hardware engineering since 2021. Here is Bloomberg's Mark Gurman.
Clearly, Ternus has been the guy for a while now. Obviously, he oversaw the MacBook Neo announcement at the beginning of March. They have been preparing him for this role for several months. Tim Cook asked him to take on responsibility over Apple's software and hardware design teams at the end of last year. If you look at Apple's executive team, Ternus, 50 years old, 15 years younger than Tim, the youngest member of the executive team by far. So they really had no other options. At the same time, Apple has been looking for a product-focused leader, and Ternus is prepared for that.
That is Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. President Trump says he is not likely to extend the 2-week ceasefire with Iran. Today, the president said the truce expires Wednesday evening Washington time. Bloomberg's Jeff Mason spoke with the president on the phone.
He said he's not in a rush and won't be put into a rush to achieve a deal with Iran. And that's a little bit of a shift from the language that we were hearing from him last week, which was much more along the lines of, we're already there, the deal is pretty much done. But today he told me that he does not want to be pushed into a deal that ends up being a bad deal.
That is Bloomberg's Jeff Mason. Trump also said that if the two sides cannot come to a deal before the ceasefire expires, fighting will likely resume. And Trump said the Strait of Hormuz will remain blocked until an agreement is finalized. Meantime, Vice President J.D. Vance is set to leave for Pakistan to resume negotiations with Iran. He'll be joined by Jared Kushner and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. And we are told Iran is also sending a delegation to Islamabad for those negotiations. Today, in New York trading, crude oil prices rally. WTI for May was up nearly 7% to $89.61. And Citigroup said that oil prices could rise to $110 if traffic in the Strait of Hormuz remains disrupted for another month. The equity market drifted lower. We had the S&P 500 halting a 5-day advance, declining from a record high by 0.2%. The Dow was essentially flat. The Nasdaq Composite lost more than 0.2%, also dropping from an all-time high. We got reaction from Mark McCormick. He is Chief FX Strategist at BMO.
I think what the market's trying to figure out is, like, if this event ends or if the conflict ends, do we go back to the world that we had before the conflict started? And I think the market wants to believe that. And I think that when you think about risk sentiment and positioning, all these things are really trying to just price out a war premium. I think it's probably the wrong assumption. And I think when you look at some of the tools that we run and we look at what is kind of an evolving global macro regime, we're not going back to that world.
That is Mark McCormick from BMO. Now, beyond the situation in the Middle East, markets will be monitoring the confirmation hearing of Kevin Warsh, the nominee for Fed chair. Warsh is scheduled to testify tomorrow before the Senate Banking Committee at 10 a.m. In prepared remarks today, Warsh said he's committed to ensuring the conduct of monetary policy remains strictly independent. Here is Bloomberg economist Stuart Paul.
Kevin Warsh focused entirely on the Fed's monetary independence. That's to say that the Fed is responsible for any inflation that occurs in the economy and so needs to set interest rate policy accordingly. But he specified that the Fed is responsible to both the executive branch and the Congress in any additional responsibilities that it takes on, including bank regulation and any other attention that it gives to issues basically beyond setting monetary policy.
That is Bloomberg's Stuart Paul. Jeff Bezos is reportedly close to a $10 billion fundraising deal for his AI lab, codenamed Project Prometheus. The FT is reporting this deal will give the lab a valuation of $38 billion. Now, Project Prometheus is focused on AI that can understand the physical world and transform engineering and manufacturing. Separately, Amazon is investing an additional $5 billion in Anthropic, and the plan is for Amazon to expand that investment to as much as $20 billion over time. Anthropic makes the Claude chatbot and coding tool, and it's planning to spend more than $100 billion over the next 10 years on Amazon's cloud technologies and AI chips. Shares in Amazon are up 2.5% in late U.S. trading.
Staying with global news, Eurasia Group President and founder Ian Bremmer dissects the latest U.S. move in the Strait of Hormuz and what it means for Iran.
There is this U.S. military blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, this just coming out now that they've directed 27 vessels to turn back, according to the U.S. military. Ian, to what degree does this place more economic pressure on Iran itself? And is that something that could move the needle further, that could bring them to the table?
You have to hope so. It's putting more pressure on Iran. It's also putting more economic pressure on the United States, which improves America's credibility. Let's remember that Iran has a lot more money today than they did 6 weeks ago because the oil prices are so much higher and because the United States wasn't imposing a blockade. In fact, until last week, the Americans had suspended oil sanctions on Iran, because at that point, Trump was focused more on keeping prices down than on pressuring the Iranian regime. He has since flipped that logic on its head, and so now he's trying to do more to show the Iranians he's going to squeeze them. Is that really about economic pressure, or is it about trying to show American credibility that if you persist with a refusal to come to the table and come to terms, that the United States is capable of waiting you out? And do the Iranians find that credible? I mean, the real danger here is that Iran, I mean, you saw Trump said, I'm no more Mr. Nice Guy. If you're the supreme leader of Iran, or if you're the leaders of the IRGC, and Trump has already, with the Israelis, killed your father and your mother, and 150 of the leaders of your country have been assassinated, and then you're saying, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Plausibly, you didn't think he was Mr. Nice Guy even before he said that, right? Plausibly. So I think that, you know, the problem is America is trying to negotiate, having already blown up the negotiations with a group of leaders that may not be focused just on how do we get to yes with the United States. There may be a willingness to engage in retribution. Yeah. There may be some ideology that is not about just survival as a regime. This may be kind of the challenge that the Israelis had with Hamas in Gaza, for example. But I don't think the Americans are prepared to do the damage to Iran that the Israelis were to the people of Gaza to get to their military outcomes. And so that limits the ability of Trump to force the Iranians to do what he wants.
Back in South Africa, BizNews editor Alec Hogg sounds the alarm on a sophisticated AI scam using fake branding, false political drama, and promises of easy money.
So why do they go to all this trouble? This must have taken a lot of time to put together. And of course, there are clearly legal implications for the organization that's done this. And our legal team are looking at it. Why would they invent a massive, supposedly political fallout on national television? Well, the reason's quite clear. Criminals know that anger and frustration drive clicks. This is clickbaiting. They know that the South African public is frustrated with the economy. We've had 9 years of complete abuse from the Zuma regime. And subsequent to that, to fix it is not going to happen overnight. Imagine your house had been completely trashed. The guys who come in to sweep up aren't going to be able to do that instantaneously. And the Ramaphosa group are trying their best, certainly from what I'm seeing, to clean house in South Africa. But it takes time, and the public is not patient. It's frustrated, the economy, with the load shedding, and with the political status quo, and the continuous missteps that happen as natural part of being South Africa, I suppose. Now they're using that and my reputation as an independent financial journalist to be prepared to ask questions of anybody and weaponize the public's frustration to bait the hook. And where does the hook lead? Well, it leads to this page. Straight to a registration for something called Capital X. Once you click through this fake SABC article to see what secrets I supposedly exposed on this interview, you are aggressively funneled into a registration portal. It demands your name, your surname, your email, and your phone number. And notice the psychological tricks that are at play here. At the top of the form, you'll see a blinking red light that proclaims 5,712 people are viewing this page right now. Hey, so that tells you, get going, get busy. Below that, it states registration closes on the 20th of April 2026, that's today, at 23:59, 1 minute to midnight, making you think, wow, this is something I can't lose out on. The crooks are creating a manufactured frenzy. They're creating a fear of missing out. And the instructions tell the victim to wait for a call from a representative, and then, and here's the kicker, they demand a minimum deposit of 4,100 Rand to activate a supposed AI trading system that promises instant results.
And an interesting development in China, where autonomous robots have showcased significant technological advancements, including beating a human record in a half marathon.
Can you run faster than a human? Well, yeah, robots certainly can. Take a look at this. A robot running record is getting plenty of attention after a half marathon race in Beijing. Look at him. He goes, yes.
Yeah.
I made it.
I can feel his emotion.
So he actually beat the human record that was made during, what, Portugal? I think that was the last.
March 8th.
Wow.
Yeah, that was 6 weeks ago. And I think he
I love watching this.
So the robot managed to
oh my God, where is his head?
get the record.
There's no head.
And I could be mistaken, but I think that this is the same robot that slammed into the side
crowd?
barrier just minutes before. And even then,
still won.
And
still beat the human record. All right, Vivian Lowe's here, our China correspondent. She's been watching all things social media. Yeah, where is his head? Or its head? Yeah, so they broke the human record. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, this is the second edition of this robot marathon that China has held, and I think it's remarkable just the leap of the technology in the course of 1 year, because last year, if you recall, the fastest robot took, 2 hours, 40 minutes, and now it took a third of the time, so it was really quite a leap in the technology there, and it's not just about speed, right? It's also about the number of autonomous robots that participated this year. 40% of the robots were autonomous versus last year where almost none of them, they were pretty much all remote controlled. And a part of it was because the organizers also revised the rule. They basically put a penalty for those that are remote controlled. Your race time has to be multiplied by 1.2 times. So actually, this robot was not the fastest. There was another remote controlled robot that was the fastest. But because of the penalty, it was, well, not penalty, the race rules, it was bumped down to the fifth. That robot actually crashed into the barrier just about 50 minutes before the end, and then it couldn't get up. It required some human help to get it up, but finally, yes.
You got a robot trophy. I love it.
And Honor really smashed the competition here, because Honor took all 3 of the top spots in this robot competition. Yeah, it looks a bit deranged without the head.
Would you do that, Dave?
Even if I tried and trained for years, I could never run with this form.
But it's just like you're on the other side with all the humans, and there's this robot just racing ahead of you.
There it is.
I love it.
This is the one right before.
Twist.
And then here's the human intervention. It's coming. It's coming
this is a
soon.
remote control one, though. It's not the one that won. But this came in fastest.
This was the one that came in fastest. Okay.
So the one that
they
fell,
all look similar.
They look similar because they're all by Honor, and they're called Lightning. They're all called Lightning.
They're all called Lightning. All they're racing.
And Honor is the company, just for our viewers who might not be too familiar.
The smartphone company that used to be a subsidiary of Huawei before it was spun off. Yeah.
Okay, so beyond just in some ways, the gimmick
they brought the stretcher
itself, and it's a. There it is. Okay, it can't. It can't wait to get started again.
This is a very elegant fall, by the way. There were many spectacular falls.
Let me go. I love this. Okay, obviously this is one, I guess you could say, gimmick, Min-Min.
Yeah. Look at
this
There's
guy.
also some
Oh
other
my
ways
God.
that they're stress testing some of these robots now, right?
Yeah, it is in some ways a stress test, right? Because the race terrain was quite difficult, I would say. There were uphill and downhill slopes. There were barriers. I mean, there were robots that just tripped right at the start across the curb and just completely shattered and had to be taken away with a stretcher. So it is, in some ways, that stress test. And also bear in mind, it is an event that really raises the profile and the visibility of the entire sector. You look at the participation rate this year, it's up fivefold. 100 teams participated with 300 robots. And that's another challenge, because if it's an autonomous robot, it has to avoid colliding with the other 300 robots that was racing with it.
That's your BizNews Daybreak. I'm Kerry Lanigan. Thanks for listening.